Canada is already responding to President Trump's tariffs on the country with retaliatory tariffs of its own. And this as business owners on both sides of the northern border are really bracing for what's next, as Jill alluded to there. Let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Lana Zak. She is in Windsor, Ontario, in Canada for us. Lana, great to have you in the focal point of one side of this trade war. What are Canadians telling you about how they see this economic battle?
They're devastated. They thought that the United States and Canada were on the same team. Look, just over my shoulder here, this is the Ambassador Bridge, Errol. 2.3 million trucks pass over this bridge between the United States here in Windsor and Detroit, just over the border there. And it has been a border that has been built on cooperation. And I spoke with the CEO of Laval Manufacturing, John Azzopardi, yesterday, and he told me more about how he's feeling. Take a listen.
What I would say is that it feels similar to what I would describe as a funeral. Most people say, well, that seems very eerie and odd considering this is a trade negotiation. But you have to understand that for many years, we've done everything we could to make the relationship between us and the United States grow. We've invested in each other's economies. Most of us have family on both sides of the border. Some of us have the most fondest memories on the other side of the border. So to hear that we're putting this impediment between our two countries, it seems like a wedge, and I can only describe it like losing a family member, or somebody with, a loved one.
And he went on to explain that it isn't just a one-time tariff of 25%, especially now that those tariffs look to become reciprocal between Canada and the United States. He described that in his manufacturing process, he imports U.S. steel. So those trucks come over the border with U.S. steel. That's looking at potentially a 25% tariff on that part, on the wholesale prices of that. They build a mold here, and then they send it back over to the United States, where it's going to get another 25% tariff. It's refined there in Detroit, comes back over to him, another 25% tariff, and back and forth 5 times before it finally makes it into those consumer goods that you and I are purchasing. And as much as possible, he says he's going to try and absorb those tariffs, but of course, that is not sustainable. His company, he says, can only survive that for about 6 to 9 months.
Stunning to hear him describe it as grief. And what is Prime Minister Trudeau saying about claims from President Trump that large amounts of fentanyl is being trafficked from the northern border? We know that the Mexican president says she's already working with the U.S. to stamp out the trade of illicit drugs and weapons. But what's happening on the Canadian side?
Well, that's where there's complete disbelief. Trudeau said there is no justification for these actions because there is very little fentanyl that actually crosses this border. In fact, the Canadian government here has invested more than $1 billion in trying to stop any fentanyl from going over the border into the United States. And let's be real, fentanyl is a problem. We should be all trying to address it, but they have been working to address it. And as a result, in the period between December and January, there was a near zero apprehension of fentanyl by U.S. Border Customs and Protection. Actually, the amount, I'll give it to you, 0.03 pounds were seized. And so they don't understand at this point what they're supposed to be doing in addition to the helicopters and the patrols and the additional staffing that they have sent to make sure that there is no fentanyl that crosses, especially given that they've had these positive results. And that's why we're seeing these reciprocal tariffs coming from Canada as well.
So interesting, Lana. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expected to make an address later this hour. We'll see how much he touches on those stats that you've referenced. A very interesting angle of all this. Lana Zak, great to see you. Thanks so much for your reporting.